Welcome to Channel 17, the Town of Colonie Government Channel.
Welcome to the University Art Museum at the University at Albany. We're here today with the exhibition 2009 Artists of the Mohawk Hudson Region. This is the 73rd regional exhibition, and in fact it's one of the longest running juried exhibitions in the country. The exhibition is on view through August 8th, and I hope you'll have an opportunity to come by and see the exhibition for yourself. This exhibition takes place every year, but it's the shared responsibility of 3 different organizations. So last year it was held at the Albany Institute of History and Art, and next year, for the first time, it will take place in Glens Falls at the Hyde Collection. It's the responsibility of the host institution to select the juror of the exhibition. And past jurors include an amazing array of artists, curators, and critics. Edward Hopper was once the juror for the Mohawk Hudson Regional Exhibition. And this year we selected Matthew Higgs. Matthew is an artist and a curator, and he's director of an alternative exhibition space in New York City called White Columns. Actually, White Columns is the oldest alternative exhibition space in New York. And one of the reasons that attracted me to Matthew as a juror was his interest in regional art and his interest in extending the reach of White Columns programs into other areas of the country. Matthew also brings to his curatorial work a broad interest in artists of all ages and also of all materials, and investigates, in fact, ideas that sometimes people think are outside of the realm of contemporary art. I think a lot of this comes through in the exhibition that he's organized here at the University at Albany. I know, in fact, that there are artists for whom this was a very important first exhibition, and then there are artists who have been practicing their work for decades and are in their 60s and 70 years old. And so I think that certainly that range of artistic career paths is demonstrated in the exhibition. There's also a broad range of media, work that many people might consider as traditional craft-based media is included. There are quilted paintings, there are ceramic sculptures, but there are also the very latest technology are included are digital art, video installations. There's even an artwork that is shown on iPod Nanos. Matthew talked about enjoying the diversity of strong individual voices that he discovered when he looked at the artwork and the submissions by over 280 artists from the region. One of the things that I really enjoy about the exhibition is the opportunity to familiarize myself with artists who work here in the community. I enjoy the fact that there are artists whose work I was really not familiar with at all. And then I also enjoy the opportunity to check in and see the latest work of artists whose careers I have been following. The exhibition really is a wonderful window onto the work of people who make art in our community and in our region. I've discovered artwork that I knew nothing about, and I think that artists too view it as a way of sort of a town hall of checking in and seeing what other people are doing, whether it's around the block in Troy or 100 miles away in Poughkeepsie. So it really is a once-a-year celebration of the art that's here, that's happening in our community. And so several of the artists have been able to join me here to talk about their work. So I'd like to introduce Marge Derek. Hi, Marge. How are you? Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
So we're here in front of Marge's work, and would you tell me the title of this piece?
Popcorn.
Oh, okay. I guess that's pretty explanatory, isn't it? You know, one of the threads that I sort of saw in a number of the works that Matthew selected to be in the exhibition was a way of calling our attention to things in life that we might pass by or we might not examine closely. And I think that your pieces, Popcorn, there are 2 pieces in the exhibition, really exemplify that. So I wonder if you'd tell me why you paint popcorn?
Well, it happened quite by accident, as a lot of things in the art world do. Mm-hmm. I hadn't painted in a long time. I was being a caretaker to my family. Several people were ill, so I hadn't done any artwork in several months. And one day I just thought to myself, if I don't paint soon, I'm going to lose my mind. And I happened to notice a piece of popcorn on my kitchen counter. So I looked at it and I thought, I think I'll sketch this. And so I started sketching it, and then they got bigger, and then I started doing watercolors of popcorn. And a friend just happened to come by and she said, "What are you doing?" And so I told her what I was doing, and she said, "Well, I just bought a new camera. Let's take pictures and see what else we can see." So we did that, and after like 300 pictures later, we were astonished at the grooves and the darks and the lights. And so now I use the pictures as a base, and then I create things off of it. I remove them, add colors, take away. But it is amazing what one little piece of popcorn can stir up.
Right. So it really is about examining the unexamined, and I love the fact that the popcorn is such a sort of humble thing that you don't really think about at all. You just sort of are busy throwing it in your mouth or thinking about the movie that you're watching while you're throwing it in your mouth. Yes. So you talked to me and told me that you're retired, actually. So and that you've just begun focusing on your artwork.
When I had been working for 30 years, and I was doing artwork on weekends, just trying a little bit of everything. And when I retired at a young age, I thought, now I'm going to get into my artwork. I am jumping in. And so I took every course I could get to, and it's my life now. It's my what do I want? It's like my calm down period. When I need to settle down, I paint.
Mm-hmm. And you told me you've been in other regional exhibitions before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been in 3. And it's always exciting. Very, very exciting.
It's always different too. I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy about the regional, is that it always looks different. It's every time you invite a person to be a juror, it's really like a different filter on the artwork of our region, and you're sort of seeing it again anew through a different lens. So,
well, you work so hard all year, and when you get accepted into this is like the most prestigious show in this area, and when you get accepted, you really feel like all this work has been worth it.
That's great. That's wonderful to hear. Well, I think your pieces are wonderful, and we're delighted to have them here at the museum. So.
I'm very excited too.
Thank you. I'm here with Kyle Green, whose work is called Buyer's Market, 100 Abandoned Buildings in Albany City. And I asked Kyle to come in this afternoon because I think it's a very interesting, in a way it's similar to Marge Derek's work of the popcorn that we pass by. Only in this case, I think it's sort of interesting. Matthew selected work that we sort of consciously choose not to see. And so Kyle has focused our attention on 100 abandoned buildings in Albany. So hi, Kyle.
Hello.
I wonder if you could tell me what attracted you to this subject first.
Well, most of my artwork is pretty sporadic. I tend to jump from medium, sculpture, painting, video. And this particular photography piece, I was actually downtown where I've lived for a couple years, and in Albany there's kind of a large amount of abandoned buildings, and I was shooting some graffiti actually on a larger abandoned business, and stumbled across a few buildings that I had seen in the news previous days earlier, where a young 20-year-old male was found murdered, which is this only text that I had put into the piece there. This kind of sparked questioning, why do they still have the abandoned buildings here? Why don't they just tear them down? This just attracts these type of incidents. And I actually took one up the street, and within a couple blocks, I was out of film. So that was kind of the beginning of this idea. After doing some more research, there's actually over 850 abandoned buildings in Albany, businesses, homes, corner stores, and this is just a small segment. So imagine this times 9 would be the approximate amount of abandoned buildings in a small area in Albany.
And so were you attracted to the physical form, the visual form of those buildings, or are you really, are you interested in calling our attention to the sort of the social situation or the economic situation as well?
Yeah, both. There is definitely aesthetically pleasing parts that I like about the piece. The colors of the buildings, the different styles of architectural elements that are enhanced by the colors, that are really architectural buildings from the past 100 or 200 years. So that was interesting. But along with more of statistical information about how many abandoned buildings were in small areas, 3 main areas really, Arbor Hill, West Hill, and the South End, was where the majority of the concentrated 800 so buildings are found abandoned. And I find it interesting, over the past 10 years there's been multiple nonprofit organizations and government kind of ideas to take care of them. One of the original ones was to just tear them all down, and they realized after a couple years that then they were just left with empty lots. So researchers have kind of geared toward the direction of deciding the way to bring people back to the urban area is to have people move back into the buildings and re-beautify them. So I think that's kind of where the struggle is now, but it is one of those things that's not talked about, and I find it interesting. The more you kind of do your own research about, you find that there is kind of a lost idea behind what to do with the buildings.
So it's not clear which path is really the best idea. I kind of find them interesting because each house has its own sort of story. We almost like project a kind of narrative onto them, but they are sort of there's this kind of sad quality to each of them, and I think that it's sort of the windows and this sort of blank sort of quality, the boarded up quality, it makes them sort of almost a haunting sort of facade. I mean, you think of a face as a facade as a face, and the facade of the building with those blank eyes, it's sort of...
As I've been to put the pictures together, it kind of reminded me of maybe a skeleton of a city or area that was once booming, or some sort of post-apocalyptic wasteland or deserted city after some sort of war or bomb. But in reality, they're all really there. It's not that it's not that we're just I made this up. It's something that is definitely an issue in all.
And I noticed also there are no people in the photograph, so it really is the house sort of projecting its own tale of the lives, the existence, and ultimately the abandonment of the property and what it is. Well, so thank you for sharing your work with us and for being part of the regional. Can I ask you, have you been in other regionals? Is this the first?
No, actually I was in a regional a couple years ago. That was actually a video piece though. So it was, like I said, how I jump around from mediums. That was something kind of completely different. But the thing that I like about the regional and having different juries every year is that there's no prerequisite on who's the good artist or who's the most popular artist in the area. I like the fact that it kind of levels the playing field for all artists and of different mediums and ranges of work, ages, et cetera, to have an opportunity to get more of a single piece in a show versus a show where you're having a body of work, which tends to be the more popular way to go with the gallery scene. This, being an artist that switches back and forth from mediums, being able to focus more on one piece and not have to worry about a body of work definitely gives me reassurance with the regional in that sense.
Yeah, it's true. I agree with you completely. It's not about the best artist, or it really is just as kind of one person's filter on the artwork of people who've submitted to the regional. So I couldn't agree with you more that it's definitely about that. And I really cherish the way it looks different every year, and the way it gives other different artists an opportunity to exhibit in the regional. So thank you for being part of it.
Thanks for having me.
We're here with Barbara Todd, whose artwork is on the wall behind us. And welcome, Barbara.
Thanks, Janet.
I was very interested, I talked about this a little earlier in the program, how a number of the works in the show that Matthew selected really draw on kind of traditional crafts techniques. And so I knew your work, of course, but I was delighted to see this wonderful, it really is a quilt in a way, isn't it?
Totally.
It's totally a quilt.
It's totally a quilt.
So can you tell us about why you decided to use this medium for your work, or for this particular piece?
Well, I'll just go a little bit into the background because it was a very important time for me. I was working in a public art gallery as an educator, and I was painting on the weekends and in the evenings, like so many of us do. And I had to research all the exhibitions that were coming through. And an exhibition came in of old Ontario quilts. And I was so moved by my research into these quilts and just by experiencing them being on the wall that I thought, my goodness, I know how to sew. I didn't do any of that in university when I was studying art, but I know how to sew, and so it became my project to figure out a way to bring that history of women's work and fabrics, materials, sewing into work as an artist. And at that time, it wasn't so odd because there were wonderful, Lucy Lepard was writing about women's art and craft materials in the home. So I didn't feel really like I was doing something super outside the context of art, but of course it's seen that way still by many people.
It is, but it is often seen that way. I mean, I think those barriers are breaking down to some extent, to a large extent, and I'm delighted to see that happen because I like the fact that the art world encompasses this huge realm of material and medium, and that's always been a very interesting thing to me, and to see traditional work, handwork, come in and be considered in a non sort of privileged way, prejudiced way as exactly. Fine art is really a wonderful thing, and I think it just broadens our thinking about how we have to think about it. I think perhaps that's one of the things I enjoy about art, is that you constantly do have to broaden your thinking. You have to broaden your thinking to include work on an iPod Nano or work that's on a computer or digital work. So I think we're always asking ourselves to do that in the art world. So would you tell me about the forms that appear in your work? What do you think of them as?
Well, I started to work, I think of them as abstractions, but it's all based on stones. When I first moved to Troy 5 years ago from Canada, I wanted to have some kind of a project that would help me to ground me in this new place. And so I had a collection of seaside stones that I'd been collecting my whole life, and I started to arrange them into patterns and then photograph them and process them through the computer and then print them onto vellum. And I had 365 of these at the end of the year, and I layered them, I played with them, I enlarged them, I made them smaller, and I linked them to language and quotations. So they became like stories. And so that grounded me in a way and became a project. But then I found myself so attracted to just these beautiful forms. And no matter how abstract they were elusive. You thought of something, like that one on the end, the little tiny one. It's just a curve, and it's a little segment of a stone, but in fact, it looks like a hill. So, and this one is, the title is All Your Troubles Fall Away, and that comes from a quotation by the painter Agnes Martin, who said, "Imagine you're a rock, all your troubles fall away." And that kind of, this is what I wanted to evoke. I wanted to evoke restfulness and quiet, but also weight. And it's one of the first pieces or first series of works where I'm using fabric, but I'm not alluding to the history of feminism or textiles or women's work or anything. This is really pure abstraction. But that's not really abstraction, so I don't know.
Well, I love talking to people about your work because people have come, I've asked people what the form suggests to them, and it's really wonderful how people will stand in front of it and say that they do feel that enormous sense of peace and also a sense of strength, the strength of the form, and sort of, and I call it sort of the inscrutable object. You don't really know what it is, but it's quite amazing how much people project onto it. People have talked to me about shadows, and so it's really quite wonderful to talk to people about it and talk to groups about the work. It's been a delight. So I wonder, as an artist who's been in the area 5 years, if you could talk a little bit about what the regional means to you or how you think about the regional exhibition.
When I first heard about it, I didn't really know what to think because I guess I saw an exhibition and I saw such a range of artists. Mm-hmm. And I found that a bit confusing at first, but then I found it exciting. And as someone new coming into the area, I wanted to figure out a way to be part of a community here. And it seems that unless you're really outgoing and you bang on doors and do all that stuff, which is very hard for me to do, this is an opportunity where you can actually select something, send it off, and then hold your breath.
Right.
And I was super excited to hear that Matthew Higgs was doing this because I've read his stuff, I knew his background, and I knew that he had quite a quirky sensibility. And so I knew that I didn't have to, that I could think about the body of work that I had, and I could give him, or whatever, send what really touched my own heart. And he would like it or not, but I knew that he wouldn't have the filter of what should be good or what should be or what's accepted. And otherwise, I never would have had the nerve to put in the other one.
The one that represents
my family.
The object and your family in stick figures. Right, right.
Anyway, so it means a lot to me, and it means a lot that it's shared by different organizations, and that in this terrible economic climate that you guys keep pushing and keep dedicating energy and resources to something like this.
Well, I think it's a wonderful exhibition, and I think it really manifests what Matthew said, is that to bring together diverse, a strong group of individual voices, and I think that definitely has come out in the exhibition. And I think, what you said about learning about other artists' work, that's always part of the process, because I think there is a little geographic separation in the Tri-Cities and Schenectady and Troy, and even within this area, let alone extending beyond to the 100-mile radius. So I think
And
that-
the various schools and
Oh,
colleges.
exactly. Exactly. So I think it's a way that artists sort of become aware of what other people are doing, and great connections are made at the regional openings. And so it's a great exhibition for us, and we're delighted to host it. So. We're always delighted to host the Mohawk Hudson Regional Exhibition. I hope that you've enjoyed meeting some of the artists who are in the show this afternoon, and that you'll have a chance before August 8th to come back and see the exhibition for yourself. I'm sure you'll enjoy it, and I'm sure you'll enjoy this look at artists who are working in our area and who contribute to the creativity that we see around us. So come back and visit us. Thank you.